Hi, everybody. It's Fraud Watch Friday. I'm Bruce Carlson of the ARP Washington State Office in Seattle, and we are bringing you another set of tips to help protect you from frauds of all kinds. And this week we've got a very interesting episode, I think, because it's something I don't know a lot about. And we're going to be talking about smart home devices and the Internet of Things. And I think it's really going to be very interesting. So I've got with me a couple of our great volunteers, Ann and Dave, and I'm going to turn it over to Ann, and we'll get going and answer some questions. So, Ann, let's take it away.
Hello, everyone, and happy Fraud Watch Friday. And thank you, Bruce. Welcome to another session of our cybercrime prevention lead, Dave Morrow. He's joining us from Bellingham. I'm Ann O'Callahan, and I'm coming to you from Issaquah. And I'm delighted to be your host during today's discussion. Today, Dave is bringing his career-long cybersecurity background to bear on the topic of the Internet of Things, and in particular, how you can utilize these useful tools securely. So, to get us started, Dave, tell us more about the Internet of Things and how we most often interact with them.
Okay, hi, Ann. Well, the Internet of Things is really those devices that we have been interacting with in our lives for a long time that are just now becoming connected to the Internet. Usually, we think about them in two ways, really. One is things like what we call process control devices, like the pipeline issue we have with gas back in Colonial Pipeline back east. Having that the switch gear for all the product of the pipeline, all of that is done electronically. That's the Internet of Things as it pertains to process control. Most of our viewers will be more familiar with the Internet of Things in terms of household appliances and things that we are connecting more and more to the Internet around our houses or around our offices. Things like online, surveillance cameras for our video surveillance cameras, the video doorbells, the robot vacuum cleaners, things like that are being hooked into our internet connections and our Wi-Fi and such in our house, so that we can control them through our smartphones or through our tablets. And we have to prepare ourselves to secure those things, because they don't normally come secured. You have to put your good passwords in and do some other things to secure those devices to make sure that hackers don't take them over. And that's what we're starting to see, is hackers taking them over for their own purposes, just like they have always taken over our PCs and our laptops.
Well, we mentioned things like video doorbells. When we're talking to our seniors doing presentations on things like how to age in place safely, and video doorbells is a great example. So let's just use that and say, what are some of the things you have to consider when you're getting a video doorbell, for example, and how would you go about securing that?
Well, one of the first things you need, there's all kinds of devices out there that are video doorbells, and especially in the Internet of Things devices, it's really true that you get what you pay for. There's a lot of very well respected and well used and reputable companies doing video doorbells, but there's also knockoffs from China. There's also really cheap ones that are coming in, and along with surveillance cameras and things like that don't have much protection. So the first thing I would tell you to do is buy a reputable brand and do some research to make sure that whatever you buy, whatever you're looking at, has security, password capability, the capability to secure your account that you use to administer it, to look at the videos or whatever. Not only with a password, but with a biometric, your thumb, or some other sort of multi-factor authentication that protects your password, that makes your password more effective. One of the other things you can do that we tell people to do is, most home Wi-Fi routers come with really two networks. There's the network you hook your stuff into, your PCs and all the other stuff. And then there's the guest network. They call it a guest network that you can set up so that people come into your house don't have to sign on to your regular network. Really, you've got two networks there. So put your Internet of Things devices, like your video doorbell or your vacuum cleaner or your automated washer and dryer, on your guest network and secure it. Do a good password for the network and do good passwords for your individual devices, and you isolate it that way. Keep it away from your other network that has all your computers and stuff on it that you do your day-to-day internet surfing and things on.
Okay, great. So you addressed both the security within the individual device, and you talked about the fact that we are, of course, hooking these devices up to our home internet and needing to have the strong passwords, potentially using the guest network, to protect what else is you're doing on the system. So let's talk for a second about the other device that is often connected to all of that, and this is your phone. These things off, you can get information immediately on your phone as to who's at the door, or you can, as you use the vacuum, the iRobot type of vacuums.
Yeah.
So how do we secure our phone in this?
Well, your phone usually, the Internet of Things device, your vacuum or your security cameras or whatever, usually operate through one of the applications. Like the iRobot has an app for your phone. I have two of them, two Roombas, and you control it through an app. Well, that app has a really strong password on it, and it has two-factor authentication available, and I've put it on mine so that I'm the only one that can sign on and do something, or my wife or a member of my family are the only ones that have access to it. And that's what you see in a lot of the horror stories from Internet of Things. The stories you hear in the news about somebody breaking into the baby camera and talking to the baby while it's in its crib and all that. It's really no more in 99% of the cases than the people whose camera, the homeowner and the parents didn't secure their device or their application that they interact with it well enough, and somebody just guessed the password. If you use password as your password, then you're begging for problems. Okay.
Well, let's do a quick review. What makes a good password?
Well, there's some controversy there, but we go with the traditional advice, right? Upper and lowercase, random characters, no English words at all, no English phrases, because you can look them up in a dictionary and they're easy to break. Numbers, random, special characters, like ampersand and the quotes and all that can be in there. Minimum 6 to 8 characters long, and kind of a random sequence. And you can use like a password manager or something like that to generate these random passwords. They even have the capability now in Firefox and Google Chrome both have a capability to generate passwords for you.
Okay, terrific. So we've kind of hit some of the higher level stuff. I'm going to drop one step down. We talked about, again, securing your devices at your home internet level. A lot of people like me, someone installed that. It's just great. I agreed to a password when we set it up, but I don't touch that. So How does someone who is not that literate on home networks do the things that you are reminding us to do?
Well, that's always, the flip answer is to ask your kids, right? But if your kids are like mine, they don't know anything about computers. They're asking me. But really, if your router, especially if you're not comfortable doing, signing in, you should have two passwords for your home network. One is to allow you and all your family to sign on with devices, and that's the general password. And then there should be an administrative password that's only you know how to do, that lets you go in and configure your router, and that's where you do all the things we talked about. That administrative password is the one you really have to protect and really need to be kind of know what you're doing when you get on there, or you can mess your router up. So you probably, if you don't understand, if you're not comfortable doing it, try to find a friend that can help you administer your router, or may even want to call somebody like Geek Squad or one of the, a local technician that can come and make a house call and come and help you configure your router for you. But it is kind of intimidating to try to administer your router if you're not comfortable doing it, and a lot of people are not. Then don't be afraid to ask for help, because it's not something you should know, necessarily how to do that.
Okay, so we kind of need to step out of our comfort zone as we use the Internet of Things and understand that we need to take control of that home internet environment one way or another. So thank you. That's the step I'm going to take. So now, among the things we mentioned, I think were home assistants, things like Google Home and Alexa, and people get a little spooked by that, thinking,
Yeah.
okay, they're listening to me.
Well, they are to a certain degree. Yeah. I mean, they have to be able to. I mean, how do you think it knows when you say, "Hey, Alexa," right? If it's not listening at some level for that word. And so they may not, I mean, there's differing stories. Sometimes you'll read in the press, like that Google says, "Oh, we don't listen to conversations." And then somebody will come in and say, "Well, periodically they do." So, probably the truth is somewhere in between. But the bottom line is, any of those home assistants that you call by name, "Hey Siri," "Hey Alexa," whatever, they've got to have at least some monitoring of the sound environment of the room you're in to be able to pick up on that. And you can tell that is, I mean, I don't have a Google Home Assistant anymore. I had one, I got one free, and I was messing around with it. And we had it in our family room with our TV set. And every now and then it would just start popping off and start talking to us. And we realized that it was cueing on something that was being said on the TV set. And so that's when I unplugged it. It's like, okay, I don't want to mess with this anymore, because it freaks my cats out when somebody unknown starts talking. So so you got to know that at some level it's paying attention to what's going on in your house, and you just got to educate yourself on kind of what level you think it's listening to you, and are you comfortable with that? And that's a decision you have to make with all of these things. Is, are you comfortable having them on your network, or do you feel like you need it? Remember that, with the exception of some of these things that are made to be on your network, like your video cameras or something like that, you don't have to have your washer and dryer on there. You don't have to have your dishwasher or your refrigerator on your network so you can tell if you need to buy milk at the store. It's your choice to decide whether or not you put it on there. So always, even though they try to make you believe you have to do that when your installation instructions, quite often, it's always your choice whether or not you turn that on.
All right. This has been so helpful, because it's a great introduction into next week's Q&A session. We're going to be talking more broadly about safety and security in the internet environment. And some of these things we've talked about today will link into that. So we want to be sure that you guys know that, and ask to please join us next Friday. That's the 21st at 1 p.m., where Dave will be here again to answer your questions on how to protect your digital identity online. So we hope you will join us next Friday at 1 p.m.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Ann and Dave. I learned a lot. I have to admit, I'm a little intimidated by the idea of having my fridge or my washing machine online. I don't quite understand the benefit of that, but I know there is one. So that's why we really appreciate your expertise on this. And I also should mention our Fraud Watch network is available. And let me put the website up for that. There's a lot of information on there about all kinds of different frauds, but also about this subject as well. So that's a resource, and I would encourage you all to take a look at that. And I also wanted to mention, we have an event in Bellingham coming up on June 2nd, and Dave is going to be involved with that as one of our experts. But we also have the chief of police of Bellingham and a guy who's an expert on robocalls. And that's going to be the main subject of that, is robocalls coming into the Bellingham-Whatcom County area. So that's going to be a locally focused event. And you can see more information on that on our website at arp.org, Bellingham tip-offs. And I'll also put that link in the comments below. So if you're interested in that, that's June 2nd at 10 a.m. And Dave is going to be there, right, Dave?
Yeah, and I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see some folks in my hometown and come out and talk to us about fraud and hear what we have to say, because it really is a pertinent subject up here in Whatcom County all the time.
Yeah, and the exciting thing about the guy who's going to talk about robocalls is he has particular information about the scam calls that are coming into Bellingham and Whatcom County right now. So he's got up to the minute info on what to look out for. But it's also kind of interesting to see what the different scams are, whether they're Medicare scams or IRS scams. So he's going to be talking about that, and Dave is going to be part of that discussion as well, bringing his expertise. So I think that's it for this edition. As Ann said, we'll be back next week on Friday with a question and answer session for Dave, and we're looking forward to that for sure. So we will see you guys next week. I also wanted to mention, if you have a question about fraud, if you have a loved one maybe who's being defrauded, or you yourself have been approached with something that you think might be a little sketchy, we have our ARP Volunteer Fraud Fighter call center, and the number for that is 877-908-3360. And that's a toll-free call and a free service. And so we're going to wrap up with that, and I'll put that number and the FraudWatch Network website online. And so once again, it's a pleasure to spend FraudWatch Friday. We love to spend Fridays fighting fraud. And so Ann and Dave, we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot,
Take care.
Bruce. Take care.